He'll take 2 sacks in a debut from SEC transfer D-end.
Why am I not getting... Oh, there we go.
All right, S.C. Morgan liked the seats, but he's not football big. That's fair. The point spread was 17.5 at last check, Dan. That's going to be an Ohio cover. It looked ankle-y, Dom, but you never know. High ankle sprains can be really obnoxious.
The scary thing is that he couldn't put weight on it.
Yeah.
That's
and he is a tough guy from Baltimore.
Yeah.
So that concerned me.
Yeah.
Ankles are weird. You can be fine next week. It can linger all year.
And he can wake up in the morning, it'll be the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah.
Then you're in trouble.
S.C. Morgan's blaming the refs for Syracuse not covering. I like it. That's good. That's a good early season. We're in mid-season form. I feel good. That is true, San Diego Cruz. Anwar Sparrow has played a lot of football. They do have another experienced linebacker. He's not Marlowe, but he has played a ton. You think so, JJ? I thought he got him. I thought that was a hold. He had his...
Live from Myers Creek in the Inner Harbor, this is the Burdick Ford, Burdick Toyota, Burdick Lexus, and Burdick BMW postgame show. Call in now on the Tom Anelli DWI Tom.com hotline, 315-437-7644. Here are your hosts, Don McPherson and Brian Higgins.
Our postgame show presented as well by Point Guard Advisors and Charles Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electrical. Disconcerting. You're probably going to need to start thinking about the heating part of their company sooner than later. But we got September starting off tomorrow. We got Syracuse knocking off Ohio 38-22 in the opener. We got our phone lines open at 315-437-7644. Fran Brown press conference coming sooner than later. We got Don McPherson. I'm Brian Higgins. We're at the gorgeous Myers Creek Inner Harbor downtown at the Tap Room. It's a great spot here, Don.
The rain has stopped. The sun's coming out. Come on down.
Yeah, come on down. There's plenty of room. You can come hang. The booth next to us is even free. We're friendly most of the time.
Most of the time. We had a crowd here a little while ago. They heard we were coming.
Yeah, they did. They surrounded us. All right, so I want to go. You mentioned that 2-minute drive, Don. Let's go to the end of the first half. What did we talk about so often during Dino?
Oh.
Clock management, timeouts, end of the first half. Just analytics. Did it work? Did it not? It was different than it was last week. How did the analytics change in a week? Fran Brown's and Fran was on Orange Nation with Stephen Paul the other day, and they asked him, all right, what do you got? What are you getting for your first game day? He's like, the one thing that's making me a little nervous is like, I've prepared, I've thought about it, but you don't know. How do you think he did first time out?
Outstanding. And one thing I've learned about Fran Brown is that he's a football guy. He likes the minutia of the game. He studies the game. Yeah. He likes to be in it and understand and anticipate what's going to happen. And so the drive wasn't so much the drive when they scored. It was the defensive series prior to that.
The clock management was perfect. The timeout.
Minute 28, Ohio had the ball inside the 10-yard line. They had a mistake on defense, and so they had another first down, and then Fran Brown started calling the timeouts and managing the clock. It was that defensive series where I think he did an outstanding job anticipating he wanted to get the ball back to his offense with enough time to drive down and score.
I think, all of us are clock management experts in our spare time, but I go back to when Doug Marone was here, and Doug was as buttoned up on that stuff as anybody. He always talked about, it's like, I want to use my timeouts on defense because I can control the clock on offense.
That's exactly right. And I will tell you, I go back even further where Doug learned it. It's the same guy that I learned it from was Coach Mack.
Yep.
Coach Mack was impeccable in time management. He talked about time management the day before the game. Mm-hmm. He talked about different down and distance, different series, different situations so that he could anticipate that. And that's what Doug was very good at it. And that's why it drove me crazy because I learned from Coach Mack, who I thought was one of the best I've ever been around in time management.
We saw the play on the 2-minute drive. Like Jackson Meeks gets the first down. I know the clock is stopped, but he picks up the ball. He's bringing it to the ref. Like, was it really necessary then? No. but just the players being on top of the stuff.
And that's the key, is when you as a coach are emphasizing time management, you're emphasizing the clock and being cognizant of the clock, then the players start playing the game within the game, right?
Yeah.
Walking slowly back to the huddle, getting back to the line of scrimmage, either quickly or slowly, playing that game knowing that how important the clock is.
Yeah, because I'm sure at some point, well, hopefully at some point this season, right, we'll see the clock management the other day when you need the 4-minute drive to end the game or something like that.
And I thought the other thing that was really important it was not for Fran Brown to get used to the clock management, which I think you cited that very clearly. It's also that he was telling his offense, we're going to give you a chance to do the 2-minute offense. Well, I don't know if they call it that anymore. I'm an old man.
They got a 2-minute drill now.
They got a 2-minute drill, right? Exactly. That's a 2-minute clock. They got a 2-minute drill. And so he wanted to give his offense a chance to be in that situation. I think that was the other thing about this being a game against Ohio, a lesser opponent we know, coming from the MAC. And so you want to try out those things. And I thought there was some good and some bad. I thought at the end of the fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, when they didn't punch it in, that was a time when they should have said to the offensive line, this touchdown is going to be on you guys.
Yeah.
Punch it in.
It's 1 yard, go.
1 yard and go, exactly. So there were different situations where they had to try out things and see how they fared. So now they're going to go back, look at the film, and see what they have to improve upon.
Yeah, I just find, like, those are the things. So we talked about this for 9 months. Like, Fran did so much to excite us.
Yes.
But never a coordinator, never in these positions. Like, that was my main question. Like, okay, you're about to have all this stuff put on your plate that you could have only practiced in theory.
Right.
And there's only going to be one first time to do it.
And trust me, every single player and every single coach in that locker room have been hearing that for the last several months. Fran Brown's never been a head coach. How is he going to respond in game? What is the in-game narrative going to be like? And it's just as important for his players. As much as we in the media and the fans want to see how's Fran Brown going to handle his first coaching debut and down the season when things get a little difficult, his players are looking for the same leadership.
Yeah. Well, like, was this a totally clean game? No. There was, I forget what they ended up with penalty-wise here. It wasn't they ended up 6 for 47. Most of that was the first half, so it wasn't like ridiculous. But, the things we didn't see today, delays of game. Right. False starts. Now, like, we saw it from Fran in his halftime interview. He was not pleased with Justin Barron's penalty there late in the half. It wasn't smart. That's different, though. Like, the things that you have full control over, it seemed like they avoided today.
And I think you bring up a good point about clock management. On the offensive side of the ball, you have more control of that. The same thing is true to your point about false starts and all the little mistakes that you make in alignment, in discipline to the snap count, all those things that you drill. They didn't have those mistakes. And I think you're exactly right. The Justin Barron mistakes, I think, were really bad penalties. They were disciplined penalties that you don't expect from your senior, from your leadership, from your captain. Yeah,
unfortunately, that's been a consistent issue with Justin here for the last few years. Still waiting on Fran Brown's press conference again. First game, I don't know what he does in the locker room. I don't know what speeches. I don't know what he's doing in there. The coaches, you get in the rhythm. Like Jim Boeheim, you kind of know. Red Autry was a little faster last year. Like, we got to adjust. You kind of knew Dino. He's going to be about 15. Fran, I don't know what he's doing in there.
I think you have.
What do you think he's doing in there?
I think he's taking a huge, huge deep breath.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Well
earned deep breath. I think everything we just talked about, all the expectations from the players to watch their coach and see how he reacts. I think that's what's happening. He's got to practice his post-game speech.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because he's got to tell these guys to go out, have a good time, and we're going to come back to work tomorrow. Yeah. He's got to wrap up the entire week and put a bow on this game.
Because he's got an ACC game next week.
That's exactly right. And not an easy one at that.
It's not nearly as close to the shallow end as some people thought, I think, a few weeks ago. All right, still waiting on Fran Brown's press conference. We'll bring it to you live right here, ESPN Radio, QSportsTalk.com. When it happens, we're going to hang here until it does. Our defensive talk so far has been around Marlowe Wax's injury. Yeah. Let's set that aside. What do we feel here? Ohio ran the ball. Tyus, my goodness, 203 yards on 16 carries. That dude was a load. He's a good player. That said, how worried are you about the run defense right now?
Very worried. Not so much in sort of the schemes and just the tackling. I think the one thing that we heard from Fran Brown over and over is that he wanted to be physical. He wanted to see guys hit. And he had that sort of that old school kind of, at least rhetoric about what he wanted from his defense. I didn't see it. There was no gang tackling. I thought that there was some gang tackling going on. A lot of guys had multiple opportunities to make a tackle and did not. And I think when you see with Anthony Tyus, 206 yards, they gave up 6.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And so that's a first down. And so you really have to button that up. I think in the run game, And the other thing that happened, I saw that quarterback, he got out of trouble so many times.
A lot.
Navarro, too many times he was able to escape the pocket. That's the other thing they have to do, not just to tackling better, but also containing the quarterback in the pocket.
Like Syracuse had 4 sacks. That's very good. But if you look at the context of the game, that could have been doubled without really anything changing.
Yeah, and again, so many times did that quarterback escape. And so many opportunities that they had with the penalties that kept the Ohio offense. Remember the first quarter, the Ohio offense chewed up the clock.
They had the ball for, it was 13 and a half-ish minutes of the first quarter.
Yes, exactly.
Syracuse ran 4 plays in the first quarter.
And that made them look really anemic offensively because they weren't getting it done.
And 2 of them should have been picked off.
Exactly.
And
a 3 and out in your first series, in your first couple of series, it was really discerning to watch, or disconcerting to watch early on. But once they got into their rhythm, I think now they've got a problem. They've got so many weapons offensively. How do you get some balance?
Yeah, that was one, like, after the first quarter, it was 6-0. You're like, they're lucky it's not 14-0.
Yes.
And then, when it's 6, 1 touchdown changes the game, and they were able to, I don't know if you'd say cruise, but they were in control pretty much from there.
They were in control, and what you started to see in the second half was they just wore down Ohio. They just had more talent. They were bigger, stronger, faster, and you could just see them wearing down Ohio as the game went on. I don't think they completely outplayed Ohio in the sense that they would outshine them. I just think that they were just better physically up front. Even though Ohio, I thought offensive line did a pretty decent job.
Were you surprised run-pass balance today? Everything we've heard all offseason, want to be physical, want to run the ball. Hey, you take 350 and 4 scores from your quarterback. I'm sure you would like to throw for 350 and 4, but I thought the balance was going to be completely the other way today.
I really thought we were going to see more of the Quinn Allen. I thought they were going to feed him, and you set up the run, you set up the pass off the run. I think the thing that they knew, and this is why I say that drive at the beginning of the fourth quarter, that goal line stand at the beginning of the fourth quarter was important, because I think they knew, and once they did it in the pass game, they can manipulate the secondary. McCord would have the time, he can get the ball down the field. I think they knew they could do that. I think the thing that they haven't proven yet is that they can live on the back of Quinn Allen, and they're going to need to do that, again, in controlling the clock, and when they get with a more difficult opponent, when they're going to have to grind things out and stay on the field.
AK next week.
AK next week.
Like, it's not a long wait here. Georgia Tech's coming to town next week. Georgia Tech's playing Georgia State tonight. Again, this is college football, so grain of salt here, assuming Georgia Tech takes care of business after their Florida State win last week. We're in a real football game here, week 2 of the Fran Brown era, and not to leap too far ahead, but it's fun to leap too far ahead. Mm-hmm. Florida State's lost. Clemson, I realize, is playing the number 1 team in the country, but they got worked by Georgia in the second half today. Miami looked good against Florida. Virginia Tech, an inexplicable loss to Clark Lee and Vanderbilt earlier today. This league, this feels like it is there for a lot of teams to make their mark this year. Like, there's a lot of teams that are like, we got a shot to do something. Next week's game is really important.
It really is, and across the board in college football this year, you're really not sure what you have. We know the schools and the teams like Georgia and even Clemson, schools that did not have to go out in the portal and get a lot of players. Ohio State did not have to go out and get a lot of players to get better. And so the schools that have kept a lot of their players from last year probably have a little bit of an advantage in September.
Yeah.
But we're going to see what teams, and you can hear just about anybody talking about college football this year, what teams find some synergy, find some chemistry. The sooner they find it, the sooner they can execute as a unit on both sides of the ball are the teams that are going to your point, take advantage of those early wins. Right now, Florida State did not do that.
No, they did not.
Did not look good in doing that, and all of a sudden people are saying they're out of it. Now, here's the good news.
They're not.
They're not. Exactly. And a 12-team playoff says, hey, listen, we still have a shot, and Syracuse still has a shot with the schedule they have to get to the ACC championship game, right?
Like, Fran, and that's what I find so interesting about this offseason. I don't know if you guys talked about it in '87. Maybe you did, but there's never really been, at least for a long time around here, that kind of talk preseason coming from inside the team.
Right.
Like, the one team on campus that that talks that way is the lacrosse team, right? Because they go out and they haven't done it in a while, but they keep talking that way because it's a legit goal. For the football team, it was not an overtly spoken goal for a long time. It also wasn't a realistic goal. You had to get past these indomitable Florida State and Clemson teams. This year, I don't know if it's a realistic goal or not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They think it is.
100%.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm sitting here as a guy who's saying, given the structure of what's going on in college football right now, I don't know if Syracuse is going to be in that title hunt every year in and year out. That's a really high bar.
Especially in the ACC, your schedule is so different year to year.
Exactly right. And so it's a really high bar. And those of us who want to be skeptics, those of us who like me who want to throw darts at every little possibility because I want to make sure we're working on every possibility, doesn't matter. The only people that matter are Fran Brown, his staff, and those guys in that locker room.
Yeah, and they're the ones, realistically, I don't know if we're talking about it if they're not talking about it. The fact that they're talking about it means they're thinking about it. And if they're thinking about it, maybe we should think about it.
Right.
At least until it's proven otherwise.
And if they're talking about it, and Fran Brown is smart in talking about it because it should reflect in how they work.
Right.
You can't just sit back and say, hey, we're going to be in the hunt and then not bust your butt every weekend and week out, day in and day out. So he's driving his guys to work with that mindset.
Yeah, I said this pregame. We heard it on Orange Nation Thursday. Fran, in his conversation with Stephen Pauly, he was asked, all right, what defines a successful season? And he was doing a video call from a computer. He picked up his computer, turned it to the wall, and showed the two pictures on the wall. It was your 87 team, and it was the 1959 team, and that's the only thing on his wall. It's like that defines success. Like, whoa, that's a high definition.
It's a high definition. And you think about the time span between 59 and 87, and here we are, right? Probably due again for a big jump, but it's still a high bar. And the other thing is, and I hate to say this as a guy who was part of that 87 team, this is a different era. It's so much harder right now. Those guys that were on that 87 team, we had so many fifth-year guys who had been together for 4.5, 5 years, had been together for a long time. To get the kind of cohesion you need to build a championship squad is very, very difficult. And in this day and age, when you get with guys who you have so many new faces in your roster, it's a hard thing to do. And good for Fran Brown for pulling his team together to get that W today.
Here's trying to make us all feel all done.
Matt, are you doing math in your head?
I've been doing math.
I can see your eyes like you're doing math.
Math is not friends of any of us here. From 59 to your team, that was 27 years.
Right.
Yeah, we're 37 years since your team.
And so
math is the death of us all.
But that also reflects a lot of. Think about how many changes between 59 and 87. Not many changes.
Yeah, a little more passing, but
a few more things here and there. Exactly.
A little more television.
A little bit more television. We threw the ball a little bit more. Those kinds of things happen. The changes from 87 to now have been dramatic.
Changes from 3 years ago to now.
Exactly. And so there's so many more variables now in this game that come into play. And so it's a harder thing to do. At the same time, I was talking to a friend of mine, an old teammate, Jeff Mangum, who I consult with all the time every time I'm thinking about something. And I said, do you think that a team can come together with all these new faces? How quickly does it happen?
Yeah.
And how quickly can they do it? And I think that's the exciting thing we're going to find out this year in college football. The teams that bring that cohesion, get that cohesion quicker and sooner are the teams that are going to win.
All right, we're hanging out the Myers Creek Inner Harbor Tap Room. We're downtown. Well, I guess we're not downtown. We're at the Inner Harbor. If we're downtown, we'd be somewhere else. We're 4 minutes from downtown. You know where we're at. We're waiting for Fran Brown's press conference. Again, we don't know how long
he's
we're
celebrating.
It's a great mystery what Fran Brown's up to. We don't know what he's doing. It's shrouded in mystery. But, I mean, you're talking about it. Why wouldn't there be a party in that locker room right now, right?
And I think they should. I think they should spend a little bit of time, again, taking a deep breath for everybody across the board. Take a little bit of time, patting themselves on the back.
It's been a long 9 months.
It's been a long 9 months. And for a lot of these guys, again, 6 months ago, some of these guys were on another campus. And here they are wearing orange in the dome locker room. And
3 months ago, some of these guys.
Exactly. Some of them just graduated from high school. So there's a lot of new in that locker room right now, and they've got to figure out. Here's the thing: they've got to figure out not just how to play together and how to win together. They also have to know how to reset together.
Yeah.
Like some guys might want to go out and have a good time and party tonight. Some guys want to go watch film. Right, and they're going to figure out who are the guys who want to go sit and watch film and start thinking about Georgia Tech tonight.
Because that's the next game coming up next Saturday. That's a nooner. So we'll be rolling bright and early next Saturday. Speaking of some of the recent guys, how about Fidel Diggs today? We talk about they got pushed around a little bit. That said, Diggs had 8 tackles and had 2 sacks. He's the SEC guy coming in. He's the guy with the relationship with the defensive coordinator coming in. He has been. Every time you see a video or a clip or the All Access show or whatever, he doesn't seem to be much of a public talker, but my goodness, he's in the middle of it. That's a good sign to see him come out with a strong game to start.
And you want to see guys like that who you expect to be around the football. And he was around the football a whole bunch. And I think those are the things that are going to be inspiring to the team because now they can watch it on tape and they can watch how he plays, and he's going to educate and help bring those guys around him. And so you're going to see more of that kind of get into the football that they really, really need after today's performance.
Yeah, my two main questions coming into the season, it was line play. It was offensive line play, it was defensive line play. What'd you make of the new O-line? You're starting 2 new tackles, both portal guys. You threw the ball a lot. You dropped back 40 times, ran the ball decently. What'd you make of that group up front?
I think that they look good. When McCord was throwing the ball on time, the offensive line looked good. When McCord was not on time, they didn't give him that extra second that he needed. I think that they might not score well in film study. They might not score well in film study. I don't think they will open up really big holes for LaQuint Allen. I think he had to work a little bit too much. Again, you're talking about Ohio, so they might not score well, but I think in the end result, they gave Kyle McCord the time he needed to get into a rhythm, especially in the second half.
We saw that. We were talking about that standing there watching the game, Don. Like, first read, get the ball out, McCord was outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, outstanding. But he was outstanding doing that at Ohio State. That was never the criticism at Ohio State. It was when things broke down or whatever, and you say, okay, what does that mean? It feels really different, right? Because he's not the first thing's not there. It's not like Garrett Schrader or Dungy take off and
right. He's not going to take off and run.
No.
So you got to understand he's going to try to get out of trouble with his arm. And when you have a quarterback who's not 100% certain of his own line, if his first read, that quick release is not there, his second read is the line. He's looking down and looking at his protection as opposed to looking down the field. And that's when he would start to move a little bit in the pocket, which makes it a little bit more difficult on your O-line when the launch point is not where the O-line think it's going to be. And so there's a lot of those things that they're going to see on film, and he's going to have to get more confidence in that O-line to sit in, even if the pocket feels like it's closer on him.
That's where I find it so interesting. Like the one guy we're thinking back, who maybe can we compare him to? And the name we come up with is Nassib, because he was a pocket guy. When I remember Nassib, Nassib's like one of the smartest guys that's ever been through here. I mean, like literally, the guy's a genius. But he'd be a pocket guy, but even when it was breaking down around him, he was boom, 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 reading. He'd get the ball out, 4-3, taking a shot in the ribs. It doesn't quite feel like McCord's to that point yet. But by his senior year, Nassib's like 30 starts in. That's
the other thing.
It's different. This is start 13 here for Kyle McCord.
It's start 13, and again, we can't say this enough. New coordinator, new coach, new city, new everything. First time in the Dome with a full crowd. The noise in the Dome, the distraction of the Dome. There's so much going on. The Dome is like being inside a video game, for Christ's sake. When everything is going on, when that place is full, there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of things that I'm not saying making an excuse for him, but he's got a lot to settle into. And again, with so much new, it's a lot for a quarterback to settle in and get into a rhythm, the kind of rhythm you're talking that Ryan Nassib had.
All right, hanging out here at Myers Creek, Inner Harbor, waiting on the Fran Brown press conference. We're waiting and waiting. Come on, Fran. We need the details. Get up to the podium and let us know. We'll be bringing it to you live. Moving pictures of the whole thing, too, live on QSportsTalk.com. If you want to see. Great crowd in this Q Sports Talk chat right now. Great crowd, I'm sure, on their way home from the Dome with us right now. I will say this for McCord, though. 354 and 4 touchdowns says a lot for itself. You talk arm talent?
He's got it.
He's got it. That's not a question mark.
No, he can definitely spin it, and he's got that strong arm. He can make those throws across the field.
I'm cutting you off.
All right.
Cutting you off.
Happy
Fran
to be cut
Brown
off.
time. Fran Brown press conference brought to you by William Mattar.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Just really thankful. I had the opportunity to coach here today, the first time we get a chance to go out there. But I think really the big shout out should go to the walk. Everyone that showed up to the walk, they did an amazing job. The band, the cheerleaders, dance team, and just all the fans, all the family and friends. I was very, very pleased and thankful, and it was really good to see all that. That was a good show for our players also, and they really appreciate it. And I want to make sure they know that we're very thankful, and that was pretty legit.
Everybody, we're going to come around with microphones for questions. We'll start right in front with Emily and then go to Dan. We'll go right to the front here.
Hey, Fran, we saw Marlowe go out of the game and come back to the sideline with crutches. I know it's early, but do you have any sort of update on him and his status?
He could be gone for a few weeks, but he'll be straight. He's a tough kid, so we think he may be gone for a few weeks, just from seeing already like how it went and going. And usually that's something that happens, but we'll figure it out. We're going to do what's best for him, make sure that he can still be around regardless if he can play or can't play, because he's a leader of the football team. When he's in, it's a different ball game, but, We're not near football.
Yeah.
Brandon, congratulations.
Thank you.
Just looking at the wide receiving core and the tight ends as well, Rodney Gadsden, Z. Haynes, as well as Jackson Meeks, a bunch of those big catches, Trevor Pena, having a historic day for himself. Just what you can say about the receiving core overall today.
They did a great job. Ross Douglas, Coach Nixon, are really good football coaches, and trained those guys up. We did a lot. I thought the offensive line and our wide receivers were two of the biggest upgrades on our football team, and both of guys did really, both of those units did a great job. So just very thankful for them. And Kyle could throw, so it helped a lot.
Stay right in front row.
Terry Collins is all about sports. First of all, coach, we forgot being treated as a head coach. Real quick, talk to me about the difference in the preparation this week with being a head coach versus in the past assistant coach or position coach.
Just a lot of things you have to do when it comes to the entire team. I was in charge of the secondary before. Now it's the entire team. I meet with at least 6 to 7 players every day. So having the opportunity to meet with all those guys, and then all the other things, like everybody's problems and situations come to your desk. So you got to make sure all that stuff is straight. But I mean, it's still, I'm involved. I'm out there coaching and trying to coach all the time and coach special teams, defense, every position, just running around, trying to hold guys accountable. So, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Little Mark right there.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
As you were standing in the tunnel waiting to lead your team onto the field, your first game as a head coach, were there butterflies going on? What were you thinking about? And how do you feel getting the first game out of the way?
I needed to go back and use the bathroom again. I was so scared. I'm talking about, I called my wife probably like 3 times, and just throughout the day, I've been tight for the last 3 days. I've just been nervous a little bit, just not want to let them fans, you see the fans? I want to let them down, and making sure we do it the right way. But I was nervous, but then as I seen those players, and I seen one of my little league football coaches, and it was just like, all right, let's go play ball. I actually seen him. It was crazy. I seen him, and I was like, wow, it's pretty legit. I had no idea it was coming, and that's what just kind of like, all right, let's go play ball.
We're going to stay in front. Go to Chris right there on the second one in.
Fran, a guy like Kyle goes out and has the first series that he had. Do you guys say anything to him, or do you just know that he's going to, sort of shake it off and be okay?
No, I just messing with him. Like, y'all went 3-0. Just messing around with him because you know what he can do. He's a good football player, and we got that kind of relationship. But like, you'll be all right. Get him next time. Just like, you never worry. And I think that we needed that. We've never dealt with adversity. We got to be down 6-0. There was a lot of things that we were able to deal with throughout the game that helped us and showed that, we'll continue to play, we'll continue to count on each other and do things of that nature. So, I mean, not getting down. I mean, Kyle's a good football player. You seen it right there. I should send Ryan Day a bottle of champagne for allowing us to get him. It's pretty cool.
Steve?
Brandon, along those lines, you talked about being a little tight yourself the last couple of days, and Chris mentioned the way that Kyle started in that first drive. Did you say anything to the team as that first quarter wound down? Because second quarter you guys got clicking and settled in and got moving, and things were all good after that. Did you say anything to the team at that point?
I was just telling them to fall back on the training, and I was like snapping on the D-line because I think they were a lot better than they were playing. The front seven, I was like, what are we doing? This is not what we practice. They're hitting seams on, like they're doing different things, and it wasn't about like scheming us up or doing. It was literally we weren't hitting. And that's what we do. That's what we like buy into. That's supposed to be our DNA. And we weren't hitting them. Like we were diving instead of using our pads. We weren't like striking blocks and knocking guys back. And they were outplaying us. I just didn't like what was happening. So, I just kept telling them, you're not doing what you were coached to do. Fall back on your training. We're out here. Fall back on your training.
Christian right there on the end.
Coach, congratulations. For what makes Trevor such an effective option for Kyle, and what did you see in training camp that led him to have this great game today?
I just think that he studies the game the way Kyle studies the game. The kid's always studying, always going through stuff, always working. And when I first got here, he came to my office. He was one of probably about within the first 10 guys that I met. And he said, Coach, I want to get closer to God. I'm always getting hurt. I'm always doing this and that. And there was different things. And we did some stuff together and kept showing him, and we were holding each other accountable. And he takes care of his body now. He goes to sleep more. So, like, he's doing all those things because he's been that good. He just had a lot of injuries and things of that nature. But he's just growing up. You know, when you become a senior, it's a big difference than when you were before. And, you know, just, I'm not saying it's structure, but I think he's put structure into his life. There's a little more structure now. So when there's structure and you can follow your plan that he has for the week, he got a time management sheet, and he just follows it to a T. And he practiced really, really hard, and it showed up for him on today.
Cooper, the second row, black shirt.
Coach, going back to Trevor, just how much does it add to have a guy who's kind of like a Swiss Army knife out there to add around guys like Aronde and Zeke for Kyle's weapons?
I mean, it's always helpful. The more players you got that can make plays, the better off it is, you know.
Right over on the side here.
Coach, how impressive were those first couple possessions in the first quarter? Y'all held them to field goals. They had possession almost the whole quarter. It could have been pretty bad if they scored a few touchdowns there.
That's why you got red zone defense. You know, you want to make them attempt field goals. You don't hope they don't score them. You want to make them attempt field goals. Somebody got the ring. But you want to make them attempt field goals. And we were able to do that, and they made a couple of them. But there's big stops for our defense to be able to do that in the red zone because, let's talk, if they weren't stops, then that's 14 points. You know, and then there's more points they had from that. So I think we stopped them, probably 4 times down there. That's 12 points. That if you go the other way, that's 28. It's a different ball game. So we just got to fix out in the field. You know, we'll fix a few things up. There's a couple guys just not making certain plays, but I mean, I guess it was big to answer your question. Now, the red area is a part of the game that we wanted to make sure we could dominate the red area.
The Mario on the back TV platform.
Coach, all the way back here at the TV platform. Sorry, low back, orange shirt. For you, what did you learn from game one?
I think I got to control my composure a little bit more. I was like acting like I'm at practice still. So I think I got to fix that. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to pray about that, fix that. I just learned that it's fun. You know, you get to compete. It's just football. I've been doing it my entire life, but now I'm just the leader of the football team. But I've been doing it my entire life. But I just learned that our guys got a chance to win. Learned how to communicate with the rest more. I never had to talk to them as much as I talked to them today. So talking to them a lot, different things that I was asking them a lot of questions. Still want to know, when can I go do this? How far will I go out before you throw a flag? So it's a lot of stuff like that I was talking to them about. But I mean, it's football. I've been doing it since I was 9 years old. So just get to learn a little more of the game, but not much more that I learned. I was really thankful that I was on CAI all night and just trying to listen to that. My wife told me I go to sleep, but it came through and it helped me at the end of the first half. You know, that was something that I was worried about. Like, I didn't want to mess up, you know, when it came to the end of the first half, into the fourth quarter, being able to put the team in good situations. And I just had it, you know, and it was pretty cool. That helped me a lot.
What about your team?
I learned that they're resilient. They have each other's backs. You know, when the defense wasn't going the way that they wanted to go, the offense held them down, did it. And then when the defense went 3 and out back-to-back, like 3 times in a row, the offense was able to go and score and capitalize. So you can see if you put it all together, they'll be really good playing complementary football. But you also saw that they were able to pick up the slack when their brother wasn't doing it in that form. So I learned that we're trying to live dart on the football field.
Take a few more. We got players waiting. We'll go Emily, Chris, and then finish off right here on the end with Carson.
Fran, you just mentioned the end of the first half. I'm curious, the decision to go for it there inside the minute, push for the touchdown, was that you? Was that Nixon? And I guess how confident were you in the offense that you were going to be able to execute that there?
We do it in practice all the time. So it was me. I was like, all right, guys, we got 3 timeouts. If they don't get this, I'm going to call a timeout on first down. Then we did it on second down, third. I knew what they had to. So I was like, I want to make sure that I call these timeouts. And then we always only had to use 2 of them because they threw the ball. So that helped us by them doing that. And I knew that when we had 50-some seconds, we would do it. They score on us all the time in practice. So we knew, like, all right, let's go score. You know, let's go push it down the field. Let's get in the end zone. But it was just like practice. You know, it happens all the time, and I always see them do it. So it was just like, dang, that was just like practice. Why they were running off, screaming just like practice, you know, because that's what they do all the time in practice.
Chris?
Maybe along the same lines, Fran, but in the fourth quarter, Yassine gets stopped on the 3 plays, and you didn't seem to think about kicking a field goal when a lot of coaches would have gone up 3 scores. What made you sort of want to finish that drive or score a touchdown there?
Well, just because, your gut, right? It's 4th and 1. We on the 1-yard line. We tried to do it 3 times. I just didn't want him to feel that he was tougher than me. And we wanted to score as our team. That was something that we needed to do. I felt for us to go and score. We're tougher than them. We wanted to show that we can get in right there on that 4th and 1. So that's what it was about. We just wanted to compete.
And last question to Carson.
Coach, congratulations on the win. I know you said you like to live in the present. You're not thinking about Georgia Tech yet, but what are you taking away from today, both positive and negative?
We better stop the run. And the quarterback, you see them? They got a great quarterback. Coach Key coached me in college. Coach Mogridge is on that staff. He coached me in college. So we got to stop the run. We got to stop the quarterback from being able to run. Every game, they all different. Styles make fights. We see what happens next week.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, there he is, Fran Brown. That was refreshing, Donnie. 100 people just went past on bikes. I don't know. I can't. That needs to be said out loud. I can't keep. I don't know why 100 people just went past out the large windows here on bikes at 8:00 on a Saturday night when it's raining out. I don't have a good answer to that.
Clearly, they weren't listening to Coach Fran Brown.
Yeah, well, they could be. Maybe on their phones. Yeah. It's 2024. They're mobile. Anyway, just had to get that out. Fran Brown. So he's buying Ryan Day champagne for Kyle McCord. That was a good line. And then, he kind of said exactly what we need about the clock management, right? That was, I don't want to say interesting, but very confirming that, last night he's basically reading, or it sounded like he was listening maybe to the audiobook form of his book he reads for those situations, and absorbed it and executed it. That's kind of cool.
There's an expression in golf where you just say you let the club do the work, and you can hear where his role as a head coach, and this was a high wire act. Your first post-game press conference, because there's emotion, there's what the fans saw, there's what the media saw, there's what people may have seen in instant replay. We're expecting something different. So he's going to go out there and present sort of who he is in this moment where he's balancing the emotion of all this and as the head coach. Right. So he's going to speak to all aspects of it. And you can hear him saying things like, just go back to your training. Just go back to the things that we know we can do. I've been coaching football since I've been around football since I'm 8 years old. All those things where he's just trusting the process, he's trusting his knowledge, and he's wanting his players to do the same thing. He talked about trusting, it's just like practice, go fall back on your training. I think he's really trying to do all the things in preparation so that, as he said, he wants to control his emotions more on game day. And when I heard him talking, I thought about, golfers, just let the club do the work, and you just be consistent in what you're doing on game day.
If only golf was that easy. All right, we are long overdue for a break. More thoughts on Fran's press conference. Your calls on our DWITom.com hotline at 315-437-7644. Much more to come after this on our Burdick Ford, Burdick Toyota, Burdick Lexus, and Burdick BMW postgame show here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
The 315.
All right. Are they up there now? Yeah, you can. We're not going to be able to hear them, which is not the end of the world, but you can toss them up there. Just make sure we know when we're all coming back, so we time it out. All right. Chat, we're going to show you some player pressers. And yes, it's Myers.
This whole offseason, and now we was able to play against other opponents, and it felt good being back on the field with those guys. And it was like, I can't wait to do it again,
Yeah, I think to go off that point, it kind of feels a little bit like youth high school football over again, playing with the same guys with familiar faces, but not just doing it on a bigger stage, as well as playing for a coach from South Jersey. So I think it just means more.
Kyle, over here.
here, right? So Fran was saying that he was a little tight. He's been a little tight for the last couple of days. He said he felt like the team was maybe a little tight in that first quarter. You know, you talked about your start in particular. What allowed you guys to settle down in that second quarter and really find your groove after that rough start?
Yeah, I think just having trust in your preparation, like Trev was talking about earlier, it was a long off season, a lot of long days, early mornings, late nights, and you know, I feel like when you put so much preparation to the first game, especially because you literally have all year to prepare for it, you know, you expect to come out firing right out of the gate, and when that doesn't happen, it's a little frustrating. But I think once we kind of got past that initial wave, I think on both sides of the ball, we started to play better.
Kyle, over here. They were over here. Did you see anything in that first touchdown pass to Trevor that allowed you to be like, okay, hey, they're doing this kind of coverage? Because the second one threw to him, similar spot, similar throw.
Yeah. So you're talking about the first one, the two-minute drive there at the end. Yeah. So that situation, something that we've practiced a lot, especially in fall camp. And so it was really take a shot at the end zone, and then if we don't get it, probably kicking a field goal. I think there's 5 seconds or something. So they started out in a too high shell, and so I was really just reading the corner. And I'm not sure who the outside receiver there, but ran a good route, bought the corner, and then it was a little bit of a tight catch and throw, but something that we've gotten a lot of reps at this offseason, and he did a good job of tracking the ball and then making sure he was in bounds. And then, like you said, a little bit of a different look, a different route, a little bit, the second touchdown, but just man coverage. I like Trev. That simple.
Fidel, how do you feel like the defense responded and communicated with Marlowe going down in the second half after that point?
I think the defense responded well, because Marlowe's a leader that we need, and it's hard for him to go down. But I like how James Hurd came in and took the responsibility as a young guy to come in and make a play, so that shows a lot for him. But Marlowe is a big piece of the defense, and I feel like the defense responded well.
Surprised we've had no calls.
25-year industry-leading warranty. Here's the best part. 5 years, no interest, no money down for qualified buyers. You heard me right. Then you get a $750 prepaid Visa card. Go to MattressExpressNY.com, call 1-800-NEW-BEDS, or just stop in.
All right.
Grab your furry friends and get ready for the Canine Gym.
Yeah. All right, we're still trying to figure out why 100 people biked past us 10 minutes ago. That is going to be an eternal mystery that I don't think will ever be solved. But Brian and Donnie with you. We're downtown. We're at Myers Creek, Inner Harbor, the tap room. Great site. We're slinging merch here, Donnie. We're in front of their whole wall of merch here, and the phone lines are open at 315-437-7644. Let's go to the lines for the first time tonight. We got Dave in the queue. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
I think Dave was on the bike.
Yes, the Dave. Go ahead, Dave. We got you.
To touch on the officiating, I'm refraining from blaming refs when we lose, but when we win by 2 scores and you have some criticisms, I think it's okay to bring them up. Ohio had 2 penalties
problems with the refs today.
Well, I know Ohio had 2 penalties called today. One was declined, and the other one was because Elijah Clark was yelling at the ref that the play clock had expired. How many yards of penalties did Syracuse have today?
47.
47 yards?
6 for 47, yes.
Oh, wow. It seemed like they called a ton of penalties, took the big play away from us, and there were 3 defensive penalties on their last drive in the first half. It just seemed it was completely unequal, and I just wanted to get the stats on that because it seemed a lot of inequity there.
I don't know, Dave. I love complaining about the refs. It's one of my passions. But today I didn't really like those defensive penalties at the end of the first half. Donnie, they were penalties.
I will say the only questionable call that did not get called was a targeting call that definitely.
Yeah, that was weird.
He definitely lowered his head on that one.
And that involves the replay crew and the whole thing. That was peculiar.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is I prefer a game like this to get penalized more because that just scrutinizes your players to see how they have to play a clean game. So I haven't got no problem with Syracuse being more penalized in a game like this because it's just going to make them go back, look at the tape, and try to get improved on those kinds of little mistakes.
Now, you guys know me. I am not afraid to complain about the refs. I love complaining about the refs. I live for it. I did not find save for the targeting penalty.
I thought it was a pretty clean game.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I didn't say like they called the holding penalty on saving on Washington there that brought back the Longarande game. He held the guy.
He held him.
He held him. They showed the replay. I'm like, well, he's grabbing him. Unfortunately, the Justin Barron late hit out of bounds. Like, dude, can't do that. I want to get a little bit more from you. And phone line's open if you have any more thoughts at 437-7644. Don't usually get the complaint about penalties after a win call. That's new. I like it.
But to your point about that, about the Justin
Spread
Barron,
was 17.5, by the way, in a 16-point game, just to toss it out there.
As a former player, I have no idea what that means.
No, you don't know what that means, Donnie. I'm just trying to enlighten you on the new world in which we live. It's legal now.
Exactly. This is true. I should bone up. But I think the thing about the Justin Barron mistakes, I think that's a chance in film study, and I can't emphasize this as much as that they go into film study, they look at and pick apart this game. Now, some things are going to say, this is Ohio, let's move on, get ready for Georgia Tech, let's not look backwards to get better going forward. But there are certain things that you can look at, and as a coach, you can use those moments to jump on a player in the film study and wakes everybody up.
Yeah.
And so those Justin Barron, I think there were mental mistakes, there were discipline mistakes, and that's a chance for to jump on your guy and get everyone to pay attention a little bit more closely.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. And this ties into my next thought here because you saw Fran displeased. Is that the pleasant way to put it after those penalties? Fran said after the game, and this I find interesting because head coaches, coaches are emotional by nature generally during the game. Coaches get fired up, coaches yell, especially in football. This is not new. It's been going on for 100 years. When you are the head coach, when this happens, the camera is looking at you.
Right.
So multiple times during the game, we saw Fran, looked like steam was coming out of the ears. He mentioned it after the game. He's like, this is something I realize and I want to work on. I don't know if I've ever heard a head coach say that out loud before. I found that fascinating.
I thought that was the other part of his press conference. One, that we saw that all the learning he's doing and that he has to represent the entire game as the head coach. I thought his honesty was not just refreshing, almost a little bit. How honest? Like if you study the best college coaches, you've studied the best coaches. They lie about everything.
All of it.
Like it's either me. You're gonna either believe me or your lying eyes. That did not happen. Yeah. Even when we have the kind of film that we have, and yet I thought Fran saying that he called his wife several times and that he was really nervous and that we couldn't sleep last night. I mean, that kind of honesty about where he is speaks to a self-awareness that I think bleeds down into the players to be more aware of how they're carrying themselves into a ball game.
Because, more often than not, head coaches, they work their way up to get their jobs, and then they are who they are. Like Dino was very calm and composed. Scott Schaefer was not. Both to their positive and detriment at various points. Fran was a lot of things. It's game one. And I'll be very intrigued to see, is that who he is or does it change?
I think that's who he is, but I also think that Fran Brown's also going to be on the phone with whomever his mentors are.
Yeah.
The coaches that he listens to and says, hey, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with that moment when I'm on the sideline? And remember, he's used to being an assistant coach that has to show that emotion.
Yeah.
His players come off
the camera never sees it.
The camera never sees the assistant coach ripping a guy because he overplayed something or he missed an assignment. And so he has to control that now because now he has to look on the other side of the ball. He's the coach of offense and defense, defensive backs, and everybody. And so you're exactly right. He's got to control that. I guarantee you he'll be on the phone with a mentor or be looking at the tape himself and saying, how could I have handled that differently?
I'd say one of his mentors is Will Muschamp. His face is always red, so he may have to find a different one for. He's got a lot of mentors, so he'll have to browse the
Exactly right.
Rolodex
Exactly.
on this one. I say on that sort of line, a different thing. Head coach of the whole team. I think it was our guy Mario asked him about McCord's first drive. What'd you say? He's like, nothing. And that goes back to, hey, know your lane, right? He's the head coach, but he's a defensive guy. Don't go tinkering now, right? When it's not your main area of expertise.
Yeah, and I think that's a really and one thing I do appreciate what he did, although I thought he was a little bit glib by saying, "Hey, you guys went 3 and out." I don't think that he was joking about a 3 and out with his starting quarterback.
They went 3 and out, but man, they almost went 1 and out.
Exactly, but I do think that was his kind of way of saying, and I will say this as a football guy: